Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. Well, my guest today is Tina Bird. I know it's a while ago since Tina's been on the show. We've met a few times at conferences and places like that. But it'd be nice to catch up today because she's got a new book out. Tina's lives in the south of the UK. She's an international author, lecturer, ufologist, and a lifelong abductee whose cases have been documented and investigated at one of the UK's biggest female abduction cases, with backup on medical evidence, photos, scans, X-rays, operations, and reports. Her cases have been on 3 issues of UFO Truth magazine and several documentaries. Her third book is called The Bonded, The Truth About Alien Abduction, and is about her account in her own words. Tina is better known in the world of ufology for being an activist and the voice for justice for abductees. Can we please welcome Tina to the show? Hello there.
Hello, Bob, and hello, everybody. And thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for having me, Bob. It's brilliant to catch up with you again. I love speaking to you always. And of course, because of COVID and your hip replacements and that, it's been hard to catch up. And I live in southern England. So it's always great to see the old faces. And I love talking to you. I do. It's really good. It's really good. But any questions you want to ask, that's what I'm here for tonight.
You know, when we talk about it, how did it all start for you then?
So that's a very good question. So people, let me first say, I don't like the word experience. You can have a good experience having a cup of tea and a bun. So I don't like that word. So I am an abductee. That means someone who's taken against their will, not going voluntary. So I'll clear that up. So it started for me about 2015, 16. I was one of the last times I was taken, and it was, with my partner. What it was, we were taken, and all I remember is this flash and being put back, and I couldn't move on the bed. My partner's side of the bed was empty, and if I could have grabbed it, I was less than 2 feet away. I just couldn't move. My eyes popped forward. I was like in a fetal position, and I couldn't move. And then this thing was looking. It didn't want to connect with me. It didn't want to do nothing. It was very white, very pale, very, very thin, and a strange head. And it was looking at my bedside cabinet. It wasn't paying attention to me. And on my bedside cabinet, I had 3 pictures of my huskies, and I had some dolls from when I was a kid there. And it bent slightly to look at him. Now, when it bent from just below where our hips would be. It was it wasn't it was a very different bend, different joints. And that's all I could see. And then all of a sudden, I could see this bluey green light fill the room. And then this thing stopped. It knew I was awake, and then don't remember nothing. The next morning, when I woke up, it was daylight, and my partner was sat up holding his throat, saying, "My throat hurts, my bottom hurts." After that, within a day or two, I became sick. I was vomiting, started to lose a bit of hair. My nails went soft. I was having problems. He started coughing, having chest pain. And then within a week, he'd lost half a stone. I'd lost a bit of weight. And within less than a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we both lost weight. He lost considerably more weight than me. He was having severe pains. We were both vomiting blood. I went to make an appointment, see the doctor, and he said, "We're going to send you to the hospital to have an endoscopy down the throat and have a look what's going on." God, yeah. And then, so made me my appointment. He said, "Tina's, yours looks to be a little bit worse from what you said. We'll send you what." Anyway, so 2 days later, I got an appointment for Marco, and I took him to the doctors, and he goes, "Right, okay, you live together, same thing, blah, blah, blah." So it sent off another referral. Within 4 weeks, just before the Christmas, I'd seen a Professor O'Brien at Southampton General Hospital. And he deals with endoscopy and stomach problems and ulcers and things like that. And he called me in and he said, "Look, what's going on?" And I told him. He said, "Right, let's have a look." And they lay you down on this bed, and there's a big TV screen in front of you now. And you can see it all, and there's people there, and there's like nurses talking to you. Anyway. So I'm allergic to anesthetic, so I was awake anyway. They only give you a spray down the throat, and that's kind of it. So had that done, and he, after like a couple, is quite, for me it was extremely long. He said it like be a minute or whatever, but I think he took between 11 and 30 photographs, and he said, "What's that? Stop! What's that?" He's like, "Oh my god, what is that?" And he's like, "It looked like this black. You could see like the pinky, whitey, pinky stuff and that, and the black stuff." He said, "Well, grab a bit of that and go down a bit further. We'll grab a bit of that." And he was taking photos. He said, "Oh look, there's marks there." He said, "Tina, have you had stomach or abdominal surgery or been abroad?" You know, when I'd had this thing out my mouth. And when I like, you know, after you get dressed, I'm like, "No, I haven't been abroad. Haven't had stomach surgery. Haven't swallowed any milk. Haven't done anything." He said, "Because you've got a like scar tissue." He said, "It's quite recent, which is why you've been vomiting blood. You can see it's agitated you." He said, "He give me this stuff." He said, "I want to see you with, but at the end of the month, start taking this stuff and we'll have a look because it could ulcerate. It could make you really sick." He said, "I want to see you at the end of the month." Well, a week later, just 7 days later, my partner had his appointment. So he's a bit of a baby. So I went with him. He's like, "Come with me." So I went with him. And they got him in there and had a look. And he came out and said, "Tina, what are you doing here?" I said, "Actually, I'm with my partner." Because you both live together. He said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you both have the same marks at the identical same depth inside both of your bodies."
Oh my God.
And then he said my partner's was a bit worse, and that he didn't think he had long to live. It was very serious. He said, "Go and have some dinner, come back, we're going to have blood tests." And my partner had a scan, and that's when we were really worrying. This is all the same day. He said, "No, it's an emergency, we'll do it today." And then about 3:30, 4:30, they took us into this room. There was 2 other doctors in there. And he said, "We don't think, he may have, a worst case scenario is he doesn't have long to live. We have cancer, but we can't find it, blah, blah, blah." So they sent him for other like scans and things like that. And that's when I reached out to the World of Ufology, because my partner doesn't remember anything. I do.
Yeah.
So I was looking around. There's no one to make reports to, no one for help, no one in the scientific world. They're all going to think you're nuts. So, and it was life or death. It was serious. So someone said, "Look, you need to contact Gary Hesseltine." I'm like, "Who the hell's that?" And they said, "Look, it's a policeman. He'll take you seriously and you can get some help." So I didn't know no one in the world of ufology. So, and all I could find was this text, his telephone number. And I thought, I'm not going to ring him. I'm going to send him a text because he's going to think I'm a nutter.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, oh my God. Anyway, I'll just explain, "Look, I'm only coming forward. Something's happened. I want some medical advice. I want some help." And it was a day later, I think a day later or 2 days later, I got a text back. I was not expecting a reply. He said, "Hi, Tina, it's Gary here. Look," he said, "I understand." He said, "Unfortunately, I don't do abduction. You need to make an abduction report." I thought, what? I thought, I just want some help. I don't, he said that the only gentleman I know who's top of the field in the UK is David Hodrin. He investigates everything. Well, I waited a week or 2. The hospital called us back and said that it's not getting no better. And I thought, this is serious. And by then my partner was having severe chest pain, lost even more weight. I was really concerned. And so I think it was late December, early January, something like that, February, I contacted David Hodrin from Birmingham UFO Group. I sent him an email. I got an email, telephone number again.
Yeah.
And he phoned me. Initially, we was on the phone for about 3 hours. And I was talking to him about it. I said, "Look, the only reason I've come forward," I said, this, and this, and this. And I was telling him about everything that went on. And I said, "I want help." I said, "Can you tell me if this has happened to anyone else? Is there like potassium he should be drinking? Is there something he can have to counteract this?" And he's like, "I think there's a case in Australia." He said, "I'll reach out," he said, "and find out." I said, "I want to know if the gentleman lived. Is there something we could be doing? Is there a specialist I can take him to see? I wanted it to end."
Yeah.
And and then hospital come back. So it could have been radiation poisoning. It could have been anything. They weren't. They were very at the time. And and David came back and said, "Yes, unfortunately, the gentleman was never the same again. He was ill, and he recently passed away." I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "Oh, that's what done it." And then I at the time I couldn't deal with a lot of things, and I'm like, I worked 2 weeks later. David phoned me back. He said, "Look, would you like to make an abduction report?" And I'm like, I think I was about 50 at the time, 48, 50. It got to be about 50.
No,
less than that, 40, about 48, about 48, just about 48. And I said, Right, okay, only because I want to reach out. I want more help. No one's getting us help. We have not asked for this. You know, people at the time, people were getting, they were still going on about Whitley Strieber and Travis Walton, and it's this stigma that goes with it. And I was a nurse doing some nursing, and one of my friends works on a psychiatric ward. And I said to her, anybody new in this week? And she said, this guy is so nice. I said, what's he in for? She said, he's in for 3 days initially. He has to stay for 5 under a judge's order. I said, what for? What's he done? I said, that's a bit severe. He said he just said he saw a UFO. Not that he was abducted or anything. He saw a UFO up close next to a building in Southampton. And the judge said, no, he didn't. And then the police said, oh, no, because he phoned the police and said, let us report. The police come out. They didn't see anything. At the time, there wasn't any ring doorbells and things like that. And they said, no, he's a psychiatric patient. And they put him in there. And she said, there's nothing wrong with him. He's as his D, talks normally, got interest. The only thing he's in for is because he said he saw a UFO. And I said, the injustice of that. And I thought, I was so frightened to tell her what had happened to me. I thought, oh my God, I could be in there with him. So
my God.
Yeah. And I thought, that still goes on today. And that got me a bit.
Tina, did you manage to talk to him then?
No, because he's inside a psychiatric unit, it's a secure unit. You're not allowed in there. Oh no, they have no. You got to go through double doors, sign in, have special access ID. You got to go see the psychotherapist for us to get permission. No, but she told me on the down low because she's my friend, so we did nursing together. See, so yeah, so I can't tell you her name or anything, but
no, it's all right.
I don't want to get her into trouble, but so that happened. So, and then I went forward to David Hodgson, who confirmed. I've got the original report. I photocopy it off in one go. And this was basically the report. You can find this report on Birmingham UFO Group. It is loads of pages. And what happened, the pictures are quite bad. These are just photocopy ones.
Yeah.
But if you go on Birmingham UFO Group, Southampton case, I've got better pictures there, actually. They're all on there with my case. And then when I went through it, it took about 8 months, about a year, to go through bits by bits to piece dates together to find my evidence. And people says, well, what evidence you got? It's nearly 50 years ago. It's 48 years ago. It started. I was 6. I said, I haven't got the pink nightie from the first night I was taken. You don't realise you're taken as a child. And then when you are taken, you think it's the last time. And as a child, it dissolves and you get older and other things happen. But as time has got, mobile phone, because I was alive before Google. People are like, what? Google's only in the 90s. I was born in the 70s.
Yeah.
So, I was alive before microwaves came out. So, you know what I mean? Before mobile phones come out. So they weren't it was 110 and Polaroid cameras when I was a kid. Anyway. So there is no evidence, But and then I set out for I got the medical report for one, and then I had to have a hysterectomy. Now all my life, I suffered I was trying to get pregnant and I've had many miscarriages. And pains. And then I'd had this one episode where I sat there one night in bed, woke up, and there is a picture of me somewhere. I think Bob saw it. I look about 9-8 months and I'm pregnant. That just came in one day. One night, it was like a silver glimpse, and that happened. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I was 51, 49, 50, 51, and I was just stood over there, laid down, had a kip, a big white flashlight, woke up and I had terrible pain, and my stomach was like that. It was huge. I looked about 9 months pregnant, and it went down in 2 days. But when I went to the hospital, they scanned it, nothing in there, and it's a result of pregnancy. I'm like, how could I be pregnant? I had a hysterectomy 10 years ago. physically, biologically impossible.
So what did they say about that then?
Nothing. They just took loads of blood. Took loads and loads and loads of blood. And then I went to an abduction meeting. So David Hodgson, he's chairman of Birmingham UFO Group, and is it ICAR? He is deputy for the UK. I think Gary Hessler's on to lead for the UK, in David Hodgson's a second. Anyway, so David said to me, I'm putting together a one-off get-together for people that have been abducted with cases that have been investigated. Would you like to come along? So I'm in Southampton, but I'll drive up for that anyway. I went up there, and there's other people there. There's men and women. A male abductee quite close to, and I speak to him quite a lot. And anyway, this woman starts talking about her son. I thought, oh, she's obviously here because her son's got abducted. Perhaps he's not alive anymore or something. Anyway, and all of a sudden, David says, look, this is one of the biggest cases in the UK with most evidence. We'd like, just tell me about Tina's case. Anyway, I was just telling her about these pods I see with babies in, and one of the times I was taking. This woman starts crying. And anyway, it wasn't a little cry, it was a big cry. And I thought, oh my God. And I stopped her and said, I'm sorry, am I upsetting you? And she said, I've seen, because he's investigated her case, and we've never met, don't even know the woman. I've never met her since. She sent me an email once, and that was it. And it turned out, and he showed a clip on the screen of these holes I have in my leg and measured depth and all that. And she goes, look, she pulled her trouser leg up. She has the same markings on her leg at the same depth as what I do on my body.
Oh, right.
She had seen the same pods that I had seen. So that's why she was upset. And then, it was so I'm not, people say this, and this. I mean, there's different types as well. So it's taken me many years, and I didn't understand ufology language because I was just what they call an abductee. And that's all I wanted to say. I don't comment about other people's cases because I don't know. Unless I've met the person personally, like Travis Walton say, I've met Travis personally. I've got a picture with him. I've met him a couple of times. And he spoke to me about hypnotic regression because I spoke to him and asked him some questions. And he said, Tina, look, I obviously had that a long time ago. He said, but there's, I had previous heart problems and that. So only go back so far. Don't do it unless you're sure. Anyway, so I could comment, and then hearing Travis speak, watching the film and listening to his story and talking to him, I generally think that Travis, yes, was taken. That's in my opinion. But I believe they took Travis by accident. I don't think it was a deliberate case. I think they hurt Travis in the beam, wherever they had landed, and they didn't know what to do with him, so they took him. That's what I think. And that was that. And again, it wasn't until years later, a few years ago, I had to drive to the other side of Blackpool to go meet Whitley Strieber. We had breakfast with his family. All of his family were there. It was quite a large family with him. And me and my mum was there. So me and my mum. And I spoke to Whitley. We had pictures taken. But every time me and Whitley had our heads together like that, both of the pictures would come out in our heads. Something had affected the camera. And it really freaked him out. He goes, no, you've done something to that camera. They kept saying, you've done something to this. And it really freaked him out. In the end, we stood together having a picture of us, a little part of it.
Yeah.
So that freaked him out. But he's completely said the same type of thing to me. So I thought there's a bit to that because, and then I spoke to Richard Doherty from the CIA. I know him. I emailed him once and we've spoken a few times. I've met him a few times and I've watched him speak. So I spoke to Richard. And he said to me, look, definitive proof, team. He said, the only way to get definitive proof, he said, from what you've said to me, what's happened, he said, I guarantee you've been taken. I know that. And he's like, look, what they do with abductees in the States in these programs, he said, was get them hypnotized. And while they're under hypnosis, he said, give them a lie detector test. He said, that's irrefutable proof. He said, there's no way you can lie under hypnosis and be. I said, so get that done. So at the moment, I'm in the midst of trying. It's so expensive. I've got to try and find someone in the UK that does it both. So, and I'm going to have that filmed, and there'll be quite a few people there having that done. So what I did in between then and now is write everything down that's happened to me and what I could remember. And I remember this without hypnotic regression or anything. These are just my account, my book. All this accounts is what I remember. So God knows what I don't remember.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't realise and understand a lot of the ufology and what I should be looking for. People's going to research all these cases and you need to read. And I thought, oh, my God. So I actually contacted the University of Excellence and I have a diploma in ufology and ufology investigation. And I have a QRS licensed with my diploma in level 3 in ufology. And I passed with... what do they call it?
Distinguished.
Yep.
Distinguished.
And I did mother nurses. So I have 38 other lower medical degrees and things like that in with 38 distinguished marks in. So yeah, even though I'm dyslexic, I can still do it. So I did that to understand the terminology. And then I went to, I thought, all right, I can start collecting evidence on my own case. So now I understand the terminology, what I have to look for, and whatever. And I started to do shows. So at the time, I went on the Sacred Radio, Aquarium Radio. I went to Dr. Sarah Alex Ellison, Revolutionary Radio. I went on Russ Keller MDTV, Paranormal Peep Show, Basis. Went on loads of different talk shows and radio shows across the world. And I do encounters with Tommy Hawksblood in Hawaii and things like that. And then I spoke to Kathleen Meriden. She was shocked. You do Kathleen Meriden's Betty and Barney Hill's niece.
Oh yes, yeah.
She used to do something with MUFON in America. She was a abduction case leader. And when she saw my photographs of the neck injury, she was absolutely horrified at that. She was like,
"Can you show the listeners about what happened there?"
So one of the nights I was taken, I was taken for a couple of nights in a row. And one night, you either get years apart, like 5-10 years apart, nothing happens. All of a sudden, you could be taken a couple of days in a row and then nothing. Or you could be taken for a while. Anyway, this particular night, I went to bed, woke up, and there was like a flash. And all I remember is waking up, this bright white light above me. And I was on this like bench. And this white being was like next to me. And anyway, cut long story short, they sat me up in the end. If you agree to behave, they sit you up. And I had to agree to behave. So they sat me up because I don't like being laid down. And I was sat up between a 30 and 50 degree angle. So I could look down the bed at this thing, and they brought this baby over. It was a clone of me. It was a hybrid. It was a picture of me as a baby, very pink, lots of hair, but her eyes were black. I got like hazel eyes. And she can link to me, and when the second she linked to me, they weren't linking with me. I was just me and her talking, and it was Anyway, so when I woke up from that, I had a bit of a neck ache because other things went on, and they yanked me back down on the bed.
Right.
But it must have been the next day, 3 nights later, I'd woken up again, and this bright white light was like blinded me. I couldn't close my eyes. I couldn't do nothing. I could only look forward. I didn't realise I was about 12 to 16 feet off the floor. That's a guesstimate. And it wasn't until I moved sideways, I actually realised I was like on a travelator thing moving sideways. And as this thing turned like that, I could see like hundreds of men and women. It wasn't just me. I wasn't the only one. There was hundreds of men and women up there, hundreds. And as this thing turned again, this bloke next to me had short brown hair, like a silver suit on. This metal thing was going down the back of the neck, coming round, clamping on, and we were being held up. And as it long, I could see it's like working pit. They were all there, hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Hundreds. Anyway, a couple of days later, I had to renew this passport. There it is there. So there's my little stamp saying that there's my pictures, and these are the ones that I had to have taken within my passport. I'll show you that so you can see a clearer picture. So there's my passport. I've just hide some of my information on it. And there's my picture. So you notice my picture is very black around my neck and the zip is done up. So there it is on there to show you.
Yeah.
And the reason I had to have that was because I went to Bitton and placed in Bitton in Southampton to have my passport done. And when I went in there with my mum, I had my nurse's uniform on. I went in there with my mum, put my money in. It was a post office. So they have CCTV up there. There's got to be footage of it in there. And then I was talking to someone or looking for a card or something, and all I hear is my mum shout across the shop, "Oh my bloody God, what's happened?" I'm like, "Mum, what's going on?" So I run back round to where this photograph machine was, and this, ladies and gentlemen, came out of the machine.
Yeah.
And as you can see around my neck, you can see
black
bruising lower on my neck. And my mum, and she went like that. Like you can see now, there's no marks, nothing on my neck.
No.
Like that, nothing was wrong. Nothing was going on. So there's the date, was it? 9th of November, 2002.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
So there's a little place down the road. There was a Woolworths called Woolworths. So Mum said, we're going to go there and get it done again because there's something wrong with that machine. So me and my mum drove about a quarter or half a mile down to Woolston in the Woolworths, same type of machine, put my money in. I think it was £4 something. And then that was about a week later. There was 2 sets. So one like this and an identical set, which I left at the doctor's. I'll get to that in a minute. So my mum goes, "That's it, you're going to the doctor's. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with that." Anyway, so made an appointment, went down, see the doctor. And as I go in, I say to the doctor, look, I've got a problem. He says, what's the matter, Tina? And I sit down and I put this picture on the table. I had 2 sets. One from Woolston, which I left on his desk. He didn't want to touch. And this set from Bitten. And he got a pencil, turned the picture around with a pencil and looked at it. And he looked at my neck. And he said, is anything hurting? I said, no, it's a bit like discomfort. Nothing's hurting. He looked in my eyes, my ears, my mouth, under my arms, and in my armpits, up my nose, everywhere. And he's going, I can't send you to A&E to be checked just from a photograph and saying you've got a bit of a bad throat. He said, I think I know what's happened to you. He said, what happens, Tina, is when you have surgery or you've had a certain type of injury or surgery, it's only seen under certain light, like photographers' lights and things like that, things with flashes that can see subsurface tissue.
Yeah.
So like I'm seeing you now, can't see nothing because I don't have like X-ray or flashes in my eyes, so I can't see the damage. But he then with a pencil pushed the pictures back to me and said, if I was you, I would go, I'm not telling you to take your clothes off in public, but I would go back and have more pictures taken to see what other type of injuries you have. He said, to know that this injury is getting better, go back to the same place in about 5 to 7 days, a week's time to see if it's healed up. If the bruising looks reduced and it's healed up, it has happened and it's going away. He said, that's all. I said, do you want the pictures? He said, no, I left him there. I left him on the desk. And so there you go. And I went back a week later and there's my pictures with my hair up and you can clearly see the bruising has reduced.
Yes.
And he said it's not strangulation or anything like that because it's too low and it goes round the neck. So that was from that night I was being restrained. Now, I had other issues. So I had, so that's one piece of evidence, what they call empirical photographic evidence.
Yes.
Okay. So now, after that, I had, for years, like I said, I'd had some miscarriages and other problems medically. And I had severe pain type of all my life. Anyway, when I went in to see this GP, this doctor, specialist at the hospital, she had scanned my stomach. She said, Tina, I think we need to give you a hysterectomy. She said, they found a lump, they found a variant, they was going to have a look, and something wasn't right. So the hysterectomy would come. So they said it would be a pinhole, operation, like a laparotomy. He said, no, it won't be open. She said, it'll probably take about an hour to an hour and a half. You'll be back on the recovery ward and it will be fine.
Really?
8 hours in surgery.
8 hours?
8 hours just in surgery. That's not in the recovery room.
Oh, my
God.
My
mum was screaming. I could hear my mum screaming when I came round in the recovery room. I could hear my mum and my family scream because they told my mum it was only going to be an hour and a half maximum, and it was like 8 hours in surgery. It must have been about 10 hours in with recovery. So you can imagine the panic. She thought I died and they'd not told her.
Oh my God!
And this is a result of it. So this is just a copy, just to show people on there. You can find this document online, and it clearly states on there. Sorry, I'll put it up for you. Let me get it up so you can actually see the writing. I'll put a little line under it. It says, both ovaries were bulky. My pelvis is completely obliterated with dense adhesions from right to left, both sides. And I'll put a line under it because she said it looks like someone has stabbed. Just trying to find my
Stabbed you.
Yeah, so it looks like someone had stabbed my pelvis thousands of times.
Yeah.
With a needle. So there's a good place to get DNA from. So there's all this black webbing that was stuck to you. So they didn't get it all either, by the way. There's still in me, some of that. So we couldn't get it all inside. You literally kneeled up on you, Tina. We cut you from hip to hip. I had 367 stitches because it was a 3-layer cut. I think it was 100 and something a layer. And I had 22 staples because they had to staple me up from side to side. And I had a drain, and I've got some pictures of that, bit gory. So that was another piece of evidence. And then there was the evidence. So the night me and my partner was taken, when I was going back, well, the night I came forward, there's the evidence. So at the top, I think, is my partner's. There's my one. I'll just check. Don't have to give you the wrong information. Right, so the top one is mine, and the bottom one's my partner's, I think. So this is the result from me and my partner having that scan, and you can clearly see on the photos where the crosses are. That's where his is, and that's where mine is. The exact depth inside the body at the exact same place and the same markings inside of our body.
Yeah,
you can't make that. So that was that. So that is empirical medical evidence. It's a medical scan determined by a doctor. We both have identical marks with medical materials. They measured it. It even tells you on there the distance in the body it is on the actual report. David Hodgson has seen the report. He's had a copy, and I'll give him permission to speak to all and any of my doctors. So that's empirical medical evidence.
Yes, it is.
So you can't get much better than an X-ray. So in between that, where is that X-ray? So in between that, I had it here a minute ago. Right, so I broke my foot the year before last, and it's called a Jones's fracture. There's the break where my finger is there.
Yeah.
Fracture. It's quite. Sometimes it can become it's one of the trickiest ones to heal. Now, on this thing, my doctor was more concerned. So there's the break. He was more concerned about this circle up here.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So what I've done, I've had it blown up. So there it is there on one side.
Yeah.
And that's it there on another. But you can clearly see it better there.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
It's a triangle chip. He said, we don't even have tools that small, let alone microscopic. He said, we don't even have microscopic chips. He said, and secondly, that's actually inside the bone.
Inside the bone?
He says, the tissue, the damage of the bone doesn't show any surface. He said, that is actually either drilled completely inside the bone or is put in at birth.
So they couldn't explain that then?
No. But I have better evidence. Where's that? I'm just going to try and find my other. So in between that, I had a fall or a problem with my chest or breathing, whatever it was. And what have I done with that? Joe, I showed you that earlier, didn't I? The one with my chest cavity with the. I'll have a look in case I've stuck it to there. Oh.
It'll be there.
It'll be there. I'll find it. Anyway, so they did my chest cavity. And they found 2 metal objects in my chest cavity. That is really... I do apologise. Well, I had that here and I was talking to Bob and I showed it to Bob and now it's disappeared.
You did.
It did. I have an X-ray of my chest cavity with a chip in my shoulder. Exactly the same chip that's in my foot is in my left shoulder. That was picked up on an X-ray and I said to them, what is that? And they said to me, it's some type of metal object. Have you had soldier surgery? And I'm like, no, because I don't have any marks. I mean, never had soldier surgery, never had internal surgery, apart from a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
And what have you? And they're like, okay, well, you have this chip in your shoulder. We don't know what it is, don't know how it got there. And again, that's inside my bone. I'm like, wow, okay then. What's that there? No. So they took another X-ray. I had the other X-ray, and it shows 2 metal balls on my lower right ribs. Actually, you can go online and find them, I think, on my one of my Facebook pages. That's on there as well. And on this object, you can clearly see that I have 2 metal balls. One, they reckon has been there a very long time. It's a perfect black spear, metal spear, attached to my rib. And also that was attached to my rib was the another one went next to it with a membrane on it. So they reckon that's been there a while, but it's got a live membrane on it. Also, so that's empirical medical X-ray proof, again done by an X-ray machine at Southampton General Hospital. I've also had one out of my hand there. There's the scar. So I've had one removed from my hand.
Yeah.
And then when I had it, when I went to have it looked at, they found, so they did an X-ray and scan, and there was nothing there. 3 days later, they went back and found another one that had been put there in the same place that they just removed that from. So yeah, that's really annoyed me. That I don't know where that.
You showed it before the show.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
It can't be far away.
No. Anyway, so no, absolutely lost that. So I was going to show you that, but I have other marks on my body as well. So in this one here, at the time, so I always make sure if I can, I take photographs. There's a photograph of an indentation on my hip.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
And that is on my right hip. And there's another full medical report there that states what they found inside my body.
Yeah. And
then there was another incident, but I'm going to wait, maybe put them on another book, so I won't go into that just yet.
No.
There again are 2 separate medical reports. And I've got another picture here somewhere. So there's 2 identical marks through my arm. Go straight through my arm. There's a hole go straight through my arm.
Yeah. See them.
And then I did drawings. I got those marks on my, like a pyramid triangle on my wrist.
Oh God, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Pyramid.
Yeah, and then what else? I also got one. Oh, there's the holes in my leg. I have one side of my breast as well, but I think they put that in here. Can't find that one at the moment. So I have that. So so I've done drawings over the years of the beings I've seen. Again, that's in the world of ufology. But this was David Hodgson. This was in my UFO file. So just like I'll keep this next to my bed. It just had ramblings on. And see there, it says 2022 to 2024.
I can see that, yeah.
So this is in 2016, 17. I wrote it down. David saw it in 2018. Okay. So in 2018, one of the times they took me, they said in 2022 to 2024, there would be a war, a start of a war. He said it would escalate by 2026. He said in a new war, it would end all the wars by 2028. And he was right. By the actual February, they'd started war. I couldn't believe it. And that was wrote in 2000, going back. There's other things they wrote down there, they told me. But another thing I wanted to say was about the link. So when they take you and they put you on a ship, I'll call it the link. So there's different types of...
Hey, Tina, do they communicate telepathic then?
Yes. So I'm just going to explain that. So it took me years to cotton on. So when you're frozen, you cannot think. So let me get that clear. When this light is on you, they've got like a orangey light. But when this orangey light's on you, you can't think, you can't blink, and you can't breathe. You don't know you're not breathing. Okay, so you don't know you're not breathing. People say, think, grab something. You cannot move. You can't even blink your eyelids. So you're just like that. You're sedated but awake. You can't move. You can't do anything. And so you can't think. When the light is off you or it's moved down your body, your brain can think and you can blink. That's all you can do. It allows your brain to think. So I think they subdue you with a pheromone, which they showed me, like a hormone in the light and a frequency of light. That's how they subdue you. Now, when they look over you, people say, they look over you. When this thing, just the one that knows me, I haven't got a name, nothing. Just the one I know, he knows me. When they look over you, it's to see if you can link with them, to see if you can talk to them. They're not looking over you at first I thought it was to frighten me. They were looking at me and I couldn't do nothing. But when you're in that paralyzed state, you can't do it. When you're out of that light and they move in front of you, you can think, and that's when they link with you. So they do it to see if you can link. Now, when you link, that's taken me a few times to work this out, mainly as an older adult, remembering back, because I've had some flashbacks. So as an adult, it's like you stop seeing out of your eyes, and it's like a vision or picture in your head. It's like a scent in your head. So just supposing I was sat here now and your wife was in the next room and your Auntie Pat came in and your Auntie Pat smelled of cinnamon buns. And you started hearing smelling cinnamon buns and hearing her voice. You would instantly know that your Auntie Pat was in the next room and it was her.
Yes.
So when I'm on a ship, it's the same thing. They have a certain smell or frequency. It's like Wi-Fi in the room. So their Wi-Fi in my head has a certain frequency or scent, and I recognize it because each ship has a different scent or a different frequency. Okay.
Yeah.
So people say, how do you know that? I said, well, I've noticed slight differences. There's different frequencies on different ships. Like one, it's like a telephone ringing. One telephone will be high screech, so it's a mobile phone or a house ring. It's like a different sound or a different smell, but in your head. Okay. And in the bigger link, there's one massive link that all on this ship they took me on was absolutely huge. It was massive. And when I was in that link, they can hear you listening, which is freaky. It's like a two-way mirror. But I was only in that for a couple of seconds, and the information that they passed was so quick. It was so quick. It was incomprehensible. But once you're in there, if you knew how to, you could go forwards and backwards. It's not just what you're seeing here. You could see other things. And once you're in there, it's like a TV thing that can zoom you back to the past or back to the future. But you could see other people in the link. So anyone that's ever said that you've been abducted, if anyone ever got to go in that link and you could slow it down and play it, you could pause it, you could see anybody's ever been taken. Because whatever they've seen in their lifetimes, or over there, and they live for a long, long time, whatever they've seen, you can clearly see in that link. Because it's like a stored data memory. Now, I was on a smaller ship, and the only reason I knew that because it was a different link, it was like limited Wi-Fi. They were blocking me. I could tell that they were blocking you. When they block you, it's like you can hear a muffled sound in your head. It's like some pressure pushing against you inside your head. So you can't see out of your eyes. You can only see it in your head. Now, when they was talking to me, well, I woke up once, and there's blood shooting out my chest. And as it was shooting out my chest, the one that knows me leaned over me, and the three that were working next to him couldn't give a toss. He made them fix me. It was something they did. And they freaked out. One of them freaked out because it got my blood on him. It really freaked out. And they could have just left me there for dead and moved on like I was a dog. They couldn't give a monkeys. He made them fix me. And he was showing me images in my head. But he kind of dumbed it down to me. Like these symbols. Now he was showing me their symbol for male and female. And it was trying to tell me that they still don't know which part of life the spark comes from. But they kind of gather it. They kind of gathered it. And he was trying to show me other things, and he was quite amazed that I could keep up with him. And I thought, he dumbed it down. And another time, so you can have a one-to-one link, but they're not supposed to talk to you. The little ones, the tiny little ones that don't like it, they don't like you. They don't like it, and they don't want to be near you. This taller one that was in charge of him, he was like in charge of him, but they didn't like the fact that he was speaking to me. He'd noticed that I was awake. And then another time, this was one of the, like I say, like a better time, but on this particular time, I was on this table. Do you remember I said that one came up to me when they were showing me this hybrid, this little girl?
Yeah.
Well, after that, what had happened? They brought this little girl. What had happened? I didn't know what was going to happen. All I knew that I was doing something, and they yanked me back to this bed. I'm not sure. It felt like it was by the neck, but they just yanked me. And they said, "I don't know," lay fat on this bed, and he's like, "You won't be allowed to move for this." So he's literally right next to me. He's looking over me. He went like that to see if I was like, when you panic or you don't know what's going on, they lean over you. Just it was like a quick view, as if to say, "I'm here, everything's okay," but they don't say it. As soon as you visually see it, then you stop seeing because you're linked to them. Now I can hear about 8 or 10, but there must have been a good 16 in that room because after about 8 or 10, I can't keep up with them. He was in a proximity. Once you link to one, you can hear, it's like a network, you can hear the rest. So I could hear him and a good 8, but there must have been a good 16 because I couldn't hear it after a while. And he said, if I agreed, he didn't use my name or anything. He said, if you agree to behave, they'd sit me up. I agreed to behave because I don't know why they asked your permission. They just do it anyway. But because I was awake, I think he asked my permission. And I'm like, yeah. But if I could, at the end of the day, if I wasn't subdued, I could have easily grabbed one of them and overcome that ship quite easily. very, very easily. And that's what they don't like about humans. So the link was I could hear him and I could hear his friends. That's something they don't like. Now, I don't know why I can do that. I don't know why I can do that. I can just do it now because I know how to. When you're there, you've got to relax, and it's like a grey fog that comes into your head. Once you relax and see the grey fog, then you can connect. That's how you do it. And the grey fog went, and there's at least 8 of them, and it's like instantaneous. Like they talk to each other, but it's like pictures. And then people say, "How does their voice sound in your head?" It's like you either get a sense of male and female. I've only encountered a female once. All the years I've been taken, I can only encounter a female once. The rest I've encountered have been all male. What I presume to be perceived as male.
Yeah.
I get like a male essence from him. And this one, he was very, he's like, yeah, okay. So, but when they want to do anything with you, they cut you off. They stop you seeing in the link. You're awake. It all goes bright white light. They paralyze you and then they move you. So literally, I don't know how long I was out. Could have been a couple of seconds, could have been a minute, could have been half hour. Next thing I know, I'll come to and I'm like sat up. Before I think I was naked, but I had this like rag. So the rag covered my breasts down to like just above my knees. It was like this horrible kind of hospital rag. It wasn't a cloth. It was like a rag.
Oh, God.
And I could see my feet. I could not turn my head, so I could only see the view in front of me. I could see my feet, and in the distance, it looked blurred, but I could see like black pods. And then all of a sudden, this white being, about 3 foot tall, came shooting out. No, he was very fast. They're very fast, these little creatures. He was very fast. Movement was so fast. And it came up, and it was holding something like a blanket in front of it, and it stood at the end of the bed where my feet were. And I was like, I couldn't blink. I couldn't move my hands. I sat up like this. My arms were up beside me like this. And I was just looking forward. And all of a sudden, I think he was taking, I stopped hearing the others. But I knew that there was a good 16 of them behind me. He was here. The one that controlled me was here. And the rest of them were like here. And there was a good 16. That's all I could see. There's a load of them, but there was obviously more. And it was obviously an experiment they wanted to get on with. And then I could hear, I was partially in the link because I stopped for a second. But that second, I don't know how long it is in the link. I'm just saying it's a second. It felt like a second. And the conflab was, his side of it, from what I could hear, his side of it was she can't move. They thought I was going to be some threat and was, were they going to be safe? Were they going to be safe? What was the threat? Was she going to cooperate? That's all they wanted to know. And he was like, yes, this needs to happen, kind of thing. So they were there. This was definitely a test. And I didn't know, you can't think. I'm only hearing it. It's like a recording. It's going in. I can't process it, but I'm hearing it. It's like being paralyzed at the dentist. You know it's coming. So I'm awake. I'm there. And then all of a sudden, this thing, everything goes quiet. The link stops. So they obviously stopped the link. And they're all like with breaking breath or whatever, I don't know. And all of a sudden, he was holding his baby like this. And he went like that with his cloth. It was a send-top cloth that I had on me. This thing, it was a baby. And my action, I'm not very, I'm not a girly girl. I am not very maternal. I do have very strong maternal instincts, like a mama bear, but I'm not very maternal person. I'm very kind of bit male like that, very, I'm not a cuddly kind of woman, never have been. And it was me. This baby was me, about 6 to 8 months old. It was me, and he was holding her up like that. She was bright pink. She wasn't screaming. She had lots of hair. Her face was very pink from what I could see. And she opened her eyes, she like flickered her eyes, and her eyes were like mine, but they were black. There was no white completely. And that's when I freaked. And your thought, so your feeling or your thought, they perceive as a threat. So you don't have to say anything. You don't even have to do it. You just need to think it. Or your hormone level changes. So I'll get to that in a second. In that split second, I was yanked back down. They put the cover on the baby and it gone. It was a split second. I wasn't given a second chance, nothing. No. I was a direct yank. I was on that bed. I don't know how long I was out. Bright white light covered me. All I know that I felt before I didn't feel anything and I felt very hot. because you can't tell if you're hot or you're cold because you're numb. You can't feel or do anything.
No.
Is it hot? Is it cold? I don't believe. No, you can't think. You're numb. And next thing I know, this thing leans over me again, and he's this side, and he's like, we want to sit you up. Do you agree to behave? And I must have said no. I don't remember having a conversation. I don't remember thinking no, because I was kind of awake and he was talking to me because I was visually seeing him. So I think I can only send messages or remember receiving messages when I got my eyes shut. But when I got my eyes open, I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me dead in the eye. And their eyes aren't black. They look that black, but they got like a lens underneath. When they're that close to you, you can see a lens, like another pair of eyes underneath. And I'm looking it in the eye, and I'm like, I can't say no, but I'm thinking no. And he's like, and then it wait for a second, and he's like, the baby wants to see you. I'm like, why do I need to cooperate? What have you done? And I couldn't ask the questions. My brain was frozen. And he goes, and I'm like, why? Because the baby wants to see you. And I like, the only thing I can remember trying to say is, what happened? And he's like, very slowly try to break it down. Now use your vocabulary, whatever words or language you have in your brain, they tap into that and use your vocabulary. He's like, you frightened the baby. The baby got frightened. I was obviously perceived as a threat because I frightened the baby. The baby must have picked up on my sense of shock, read my shock as a threat. They were very quick. So they took the baby straight away. They thought I was going to hurt the baby. I do apologise. 1 second, I thought I'd turn that off. I can't even turn it on to turn it off now. So I do apologise. I'm trying to turn it off. And he's like, you frightened the baby. I'm like, okay. He said, will you cooperate? I'm like, no. He said, if I agree to sit you, I said, no, I want to be sat upright. He said, if we agree to sit you up, he didn't use my name again. He said, would you agree to cooperate? The baby wants to see you. I'm like, it's a baby. How can she talk? Babies don't think, they don't talk. I'm like, okay. So then and he went, and then the light came. And then as I was sat up, I remember all I did, I was sat bolt upright like this, Bob, and it looked like someone had turned my head that way because I could see down my arm and shoulder. So I went on the same kind of bed or table when my head turned completely that way. My arms are down here, and all of a sudden this thing, one of these little ones, had the baby. He had the baby with him. He didn't want to be weary. This time he had the baby out like that in front of him because he did not want to be near me. And he brought it right up to my head, pulled the blanket back, and she looked at me right like she was here. And I'm looking at her, and she blinked. As she blinked, she linked with me, and I stopped seeing out my eyes. As I stopped seeing this on my eyes, I was in the blackest, coldest, darkest link. It was me and her. There was no me and her in their link. They weren't listening. There was no one else. It was like a black void. It was just me and her. Now, a baby that looked to be 6 or 8 months old had that much telepathic power to connect. And the worst thing is, the second that she released whatever power I was under, because she wanted to talk to me, she allowed me into her head. So she was obviously in my head. She opened up like a gateway into my head, and I wanted answers very quickly. And she showed me she had all my memories up to like 2 or 8 months before, and then it was a black point. So she had all my memories up to like 2 months or 8 months before a certain point when there was nothing. So she was me inside. She was showing me she had all my memories. And then she must have said something because I agreed. I had to agree. And I said, what do you want it for? She said, to show the others. I said, what others? She said, and she tried to explain to me about the link. She said, can I take a picture? I'm like, how are you going to take a picture? It was incomprehensible. I'm like, yeah. And she like blinked in my mind. And I said, can I see the picture? And she showed me this image. My hair was a mess. I was bright red. I was naked up to here. This rag thing was down me. I looked like I'd been dragged for a hedge backwards. I'm like, oh my God, don't show anybody that. I looked horrendous.
Oh, God.
It looked terrible. And I said, why have you done that? She said, so the others will know. And I said, what? She goes, But she also showed me in that snap, in that instant, on that data registry in her bread, it had my hormone level, my pheromone level, my heartbeats a minute, my oxygen rate. I had everything in this, my hair color, eye type, everything in this one shot.
Amazing.
You imagine a hybrid baby. She was them on the inside, no feelings, no. It was all blackness. It was all them, but she had my memory. So you imagine a 6 or 8 month old baby that could communicate as the same level as a 48-year-old human, and had her experiences. Then I'm not sure what happened. Now looking back, I believe they pulled her away from me, because the closer you are, you link instantly. The further you are away, it takes a bit longer. And if there's more than one of them or a crowd of them, it goes very grey very quickly, and you get lost in it. But when they focus on you and they want to link in one-to-one, it's that I believe they pulled her away, they put the cover on her and taken her away. And I was going, what's going to happen to her? What's going to happen to her? Will I see her again? And none of my answers. They didn't want to know my answers. They're more concerned about getting the baby away. Didn't want to know me. Then it all went bright white light again, and he was over me again. And he said to me, and this is the first time I walked about on one of these ships. Again, I was naked. I just had this rag on. They said, if I agree to behave, he didn't say cooperate. He said, if I agree to behave, I could stand up. I thought, all went bright white light. And then so I'm allergic. I'm highly allergic to a lot of things, like anesthetics. Morphine doesn't really work on me. It just makes me vomit. Doesn't do anything for me.
Right.
And I'm allergic to anesthetic because I woke up once in the middle of an operation, and then they put me to sleep, open my throat, and all kinds. So there's a lot of things that don't work. And I don't know why that is, but I believe because this anesthetic doesn't work on me, they gave me something, a drug, because I could taste it. When they inject me with something in my arm, I get a bitter taste in my chest. It's like it's in my lungs. I can breathe it. I can taste it in my chest.
Yeah.
It's awful. Now I could taste that exact same taste in my chest. I knew they'd give me something. And when I came round, I was stood up. Nobody was in front of me. I was stood up a bit like a zombie, a bit blurred vision. So whatever they was giving me, I'd either made me dopey, but I don't think I could walk on my own. I think they were assisting me to walk. They were behind me, directing me like I got the urge to move forward. And as I moved forward a couple of paces, it was like it looked black, but it wasn't. It was like a grey, brittle concrete, the floor. I couldn't really feel it because I felt quite numb. And as I looked up, there were hundreds. I'd done a drawing of these pods. Hundreds and hundreds of these pods. And there they are there. So I've got a drawing. So so that's actually what it looked like there. So
oh yeah,
this
yeah.
pods. So what happened as I approached? I got to here. There's me here. This little white being, the one that had the baby, this one here, had run out. He was so quick from between the pods, and he stood between me and the pods. Okay.
Yeah.
He perceived me as a threat. They're in rows of threes. He perceived me as a threat. And the one that was next to me must have stopped the link, because I could hear the link and I could hear the others in the link. They were all pushing against him. And I could hear, no, stand back. She is inquisitive. She's not going to hurt you. She's not going to hurt the pods. It was another test. But this thing it was ordered to stand back. It did, but it was not happy about doing it. It perceived me as a direct threat. Now, it wasn't until I got closer. So as I got closer, this is what I saw. So she going back, I was at front there about 2 feet, a couple of inches off the floor, about 2 feet wide, well, about 2 feet tall, about saying wide, a foot and a half across, 2 feet wide.
Yeah.
And a baby in there. And inside was a red light. And as I got to it, I looked at it, and he's going, look. And I stopped. I couldn't move. It was like I was leant forward. And I wanted to put my hand out. And again, I had to get permission. So I was stopped. And he was having a conversation. It was, no, she's inquisitive. She doesn't want to hurt the baby. She's human. She wants to have a look.
Mm.
So they let me move. I could only move my right hand. As I leant over, I put it on the top of the pods, and he's going, look. It felt like someone was pushing my head forward. And as I went forward, I saw this red light fish tank light in there. And there was a baby. There was a baby in there about 8 months along. And I must have asked a question. He's going, no, she's because I must have started to panic, because then he stopped everything. He goes, no, she's, because I thought the baby's in there. She's cold. It's going to hurt her. He's got, no, the baby is warm. He said, see that red light? That's keeping the baby warm. The baby's not cold. We're not hurting the baby. That was the thing that they thought I was going to, you know. I think once you are worked up, or once you get in an angry state, your anger pheromones, your testosterone must override whatever they've given you. And he's like, no. And then he's like, no, she's fine. The water. And I must have asked a question. He goes, it's they can't make embryonic fluid to the same level as a human, which was I found very interesting.
Oh, very interesting.
It was manufactured embryonic fluid, because I must have asked a question. They're like, no, we can't. She's in embryonic fluid. We can't manufacture it to the same level as a human. So whether they meant on that size or that particular baby, I don't know. Then all of a sudden, I could hear. I stopped hearing him. So any control he had over me had gone. I hadn't moved. My eyes were shut. And then I heard all these little voices. They're all pipsqueak, tiny voices. All these clones. They're all females. And they were females of me. In that split second, whether they stood back or they yanked me back I'm not sure what happened. In that split second, I was awake next to the pods. And it felt like a million metal ants had rushed in my head. They were turning everything over. Oh. They were so angry. All they wanted to know, they couldn't care if you were a murderer, a rapist, if you told lies. They didn't care. All they want to know is they want to know how I knew that they were only grown females. Because they didn't. I think the others didn't know that group.
They didn't know.
They didn't know. They wanted to know how I knew that they were all females. They knew I did not have that information. And they obviously couldn't break the link the girls were in, because they weren't in that. So these babies inside this pubs were talking to each other.
Oh.
Clones of me, they without the others knowing. So I don't think that went down too well.
Oh, but it didn't.
No, it didn't. And they were all inside my head, these metal ants, trying to figure out how I knew. And the next thing I know, while they're in there, I couldn't move, which means they had no control over me. And I just started to move my eyes around, and all of a sudden I see the red light. Like I seen this red light, like a pulse go through the floor, underneath the floor. And then he goes, everything stopped. The metal ant stopped. He goes, no. He goes, I'm going to shower type of thing. And whether it's to gain control of me, to take a couple of steps the other way, away from the pods, or in a different direction, I don't know. But he then, and I was inquisitive about the red. I think he was showing me, while there was obviously trying to find the information they were looking for, he was showing me that, I drew the picture, it's here. He was showing me that this red blob went around the ship and they used it as energy. It started out as energy from this machine. It went around this machine like a wave, like a double wave. And as it came out this machine, here it is here. And a professor at Southampton University is studying it for scalar or something other messaging. But it's a form of energy. So there it is there. So there's and it goes in one end. The light goes through it. And the pulse, the wave goes through it. And it goes in this one here. The light connects. So the light goes one way, goes down here slowly, speeds up in the middle one, goes over there, comes out, and the pulse goes all the way through the middle. And then it comes out the other end, and they reuse it around the ship. So they show me the energy they reused. And once I knew that, they yanked me back to the bed. That's the night when I got the bruising. And then I was up the next day with the people. And then that's when they took me in the other room to show me what else was next. But is there any questions you want to ask me to that point? Because I could talk all day. I don't know what way your show's gone over.
I know.
Is there any questions?
Mason just said, I'll just put it on thing. Come on. Evening, Tina. You're such a lovely lady. What did the consultant have to say about it? The awful markings on your body.
So, so when I went back to get the results for my hysterectomy, this specialist wasn't there. So if anyone knows the Princess Anne Hospital in Southampton, you know when you get there, it's a maternity hospital. It's absolutely packed. So I went there, but I had my hysterectomy at Southampton General. Or was it Princess Anne? No, it might have been Princess Anne. Anyway, when you go back there, I went in there for my results. And they took me to the side ward. As soon as I went in, they said, oh, they're waiting for you. I said, who's waiting for me? So they took me and my mum in, and normally this ward, you got to stand, and you're standing there for hours waiting for someone to call you. It was empty. Nobody in there. All the consultant rooms were empty. We went past that into a sub-waiting area, and there's this woman, and the nurse went off, and I said to my mum, I think we're in a closed part of the hospital. There was no one else there. And me and my mum were waiting there. We're looking at each other, and I thought, I think we're in the wrong place if they forgot. And all of a sudden, this woman, Sarah, her name was, she didn't have no medical ID. She looked very young, about 27, 30. She called me in, and she sat down, and she told me my mum to wait outside, and she had a file like this, and she tapped her finger on it. She said, Tina, I've been reading about you, and I wanted to meet you. She said, just know that all your life that you've been right. She said, every time you go to been to the doctors, you've been right and justifiably so. She said, they don't have to give me all the results, which they don't. They don't have to give you a result test in Southampton. Did you know that? I didn't know that. So, like I went for a scan once. They also said I was pregnant, but because they weren't looking for a pregnancy, which did not end well, I had a ruptured ectopic pregnancy, they didn't have to tell me that I had it. But she said, you do, and you had something very rare. And I said, what was it? She said, oh, it was something, I can't remember the name of it now. But we can't give the results of what we're taking out. So she said, but I just wanted to meet you. You shouldn't have any more problems now. You'll have a draining, and you'll be given anything like painkillers that just go to the doctors if you're in any more pain, blah, blah, blah. My GP with the pictures, he wasn't my GP not long after that. He wouldn't see me anymore. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to be associated. Yeah. So, but another thing that's happened to me, I had a picture. I woke up one night, and
Can I just say, who do you think she was then?
I don't know. She wasn't my doctor. She wasn't a specialist there. She wasn't any one of the women that performed my surgery. I don't know. But when I had the lump out of my hand, it was an American general off American ship that had docked in Southampton that took it out. His bodyguard was in the room. I was awake, so it was a surgery because I'm allergic to anesthetic. And he was chatting to me. It was an American general that took that out of my hand. And his bodyguard, he had a bodyguard, was in the room in the theatre with me. With the other nurses in there. Yeah.
Just makes you wonder who knows about you out there.
Yeah. Well, I had another episode. One night I woke up and I had a dream that they'd taken my mum. My mum was in front of me and I was being bumped along. And I think it was American accent. There were two Americans. But I think they had like pig's masks on. But they thought it was American, but it's probably Canadian, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm there. And he came over because I woke up. My mum was asleep in like this dentist chair. And they were talking to my mum. They was holding her hand and whispering in her ear. And I was freaking out. And this is the day I saw the female one. All of a sudden, this corner of the moon moved like a tent. And this little female one came with like a tray. And she didn't link with me. I knew she was female. But I got the distinct feeling she turned around. She was not happy with what they're about to do. And he dismissed her. This bloke, this pig's mask on, dismissed her with a wave. And she looked at me and she looked at them. She was not happy. She was not. I got that vibe straight away. And she left the room without a second glance. And what happened was they come over. Now, I went to bed, didn't have any marks on me. They come over and jab me in the head. And they give me a jab in the back of my arm. There it is. There's a new one. So when I woke up, I had this huge injection mark here on the side of my arm. Big lump had come up. You know, when you have a vaccine or something, they inject you.
Yeah.
It was that the next morning. I had it on. And it was Mother's Day in the morning when I woke up. And I went down the stairs, had my pajamas on. That's how my mum saw it. And I was on the computer putting Mother's Day bits up so she would see it. And she said, oh, my God, Tina, what's happened to your arm? She said, it's all swollen up. Oh, my God. And then I said, what's the matter, Mum? She looked terrible. She said, I don't know. My hand's red. And her hand was red. She said, my hand was freezing cold. She said, I dreamt I knew an old friend who was holding my hand in my sleep talking to me. And my hand's been cold all night ever since. And then when I went to hospital, not long after that, the same day, I was having breathing problems. I collapsed, went up on the toilet, collapsed, couldn't breathe. An ambulance came out, tried to resuscitate me on the bathroom floor, and their batteries on the machine went dead. And all the machine equipment died. They found another, so there was one ambulance crew there. My mum witnessed this, as did my partner, and 3 ambulance crews. They found another ambulance. Another ambulance came as backup. They managed to bring me round, but their machine died.
Oh, God.
Then all my readings for everything were off the chart. I managed to come round. I was vomiting and I wasn't with it. They give me oxygen and painkillers in there in the thingy. They got to hospital and nothing worked. They took me into, and where the resuscitation room is in Majors, they have this little room between resuscitation and when they run you into emergency surgery is a room. They put me in there on my own. They put a drip up, and this doctor came in, and he had protective clothing on. So that at this time, they didn't ask me what had happened because I couldn't even speak. I was sat up, and as I leant forward, I just vomited. And he went out, and there's this French doctor out there. He goes, "Oh, I bet you've changed your mind now." And they said something. Anyway, the nurse cleaned me up, and he came back in. And he said, "I'm going to send a doctor in for you, Tina." He said, "Don't worry." He had a look at me. He said, "We're going to give you a brain scan." He said, "We'll have a look at you." And I said, "My arm hurts." My mum said, "She's got a big lump on her arm." My mum was there. I went in for this brain scan right next to, there's an x-ray department right next to emergency at Southampton. They wheeled me in there. I came back out. I sat up, and this doctor came in. He said, "Dr. Tina, you've got a sac at the back of your brain that's supposed to have fluid in." She goes, you don't have it. You don't have nothing in there. It's empty. So whether you've had a stroke, he said, I'm not quite sure. So, but you showed no signs of it. He said, "We were having a problem with their equipment reading it." So where he said, "Have you been near anything radioactive?" No. And I was vomiting still. And then all of a sudden, the one that had been on, she'd been monitoring me very closely. She'd been in the room every 10 minutes. This female, so he was a specialist, and I had this female doctor check on me in this private room every 10 minutes. She was checking my drips, checking if I vomited, checking my family. And she came in to talk to me, and all of a sudden, the doors opened. So this is on Southampton General Hospital security CCTV. There's CCTV inside the room. There's cameras in in A&E, isn't there? Both sides, I could see like at least 2 or 3 cameras. This woman comes in like a yellow hazmat suit, hazmat suit with a woman. It looked like she had a military uniform on, Navy one, with no signature on it. Said she was a reporter. She didn't speak English. I don't think either of them spoke English. My doctor said, "What on earth's going on here? Who are you? What's going on?" She said, "We need to take blood." She said, "We've just had done blood for Tina. We've had 2 or 3 lots of blood." My doctor physically leant over the bed to grab her. This other woman pulled my arm out, the one that had this yellow hazmat suit. I just stabbed a needle in me. Didn't put a cannula in, just stabbed a needle in my arm. Took 2 lots of blood out, put it in this thing. She gave it to this woman to hold, and she went out. She had yellow boots on, yellow mask, yellow hood, everything. And then my doctor ran out. She said, "Tina, you all right?" My arm. And then nothing was gone. I could hear the doctor out. "Who's that woman? What's going on?" "She's my patient." And I could hear her rambling outside the doors. By then, I've been in there about 2 hours. They changed my IV. So all the cameras are still recording. And my doctor came back in. As she came in again, these 2 women came in. My doctor said, "What on earth's going on now?" I said, "We're taking Tina." She said, "No, you're not. She's my patient. She's not been discharged. She's medically ill. She's here. She's serious. She's critically ill." And they're like, "No." She said, "There's not a bed for her anywhere. She's staying here. She's staying here." And she said, "No, she's being quarantined." She said, "Quarantined?" She said, "There's nothing on her notes. Who are you? You've got no ID." The doctor was hanging on my bed. My mum was next to me. My husband was next to her. One woman was pushing me, the woman in the quarantine outfit. No other doctors tried to stop her. This other naval woman, whoever she was pulling the bed. My doctor fell off the bed as she went through the doors. Pushed me up through A&E, through around the hospital, and I wound up in some secure quarantine room where they locked me in. They locked me in this room where there was like 3 rooms, like on this secure ward, and you couldn't get out. And there was a notice on the door saying I couldn't go in. I had a toilet in there next to me, where everyone could see you go to the toilet because there wasn't a separate bathroom.
Oh, terrible.
I was locked in there for, I think it was 2 days, maybe 3. And they brought me no food. On the 3rd day, someone brought me a sandwich. The nurses didn't come in. One nurse was allowed to come in. She took blood, but then left it in the sink. They left the poo thing in there for like 3 days because I had vomited, and they didn't take the bags out either. They only came in to do is give me all these different IVs, different coloured bags. And I had nothing in there, no TV. They closed the curtain. I couldn't even close the curtains. They did it from the outside because the leads were so short, I couldn't even get up out of the bed.
Oh, my God.
It's basically looked like I was taped to the bed for 3 days I was in there. And then on the 3rd day, I think, on the morning, I think the time, because there's no clock in, I think the time must have been 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. This gentleman come in, and he came in, he opened the door, unlocked it. I couldn't see the nurses, couldn't see anybody else. He came in and he left the door open. I thought, he's not supposed to do that. I didn't tell him that. And while he's talking to me, he's undoing all the drips, doing everything else. And he said, Tina, we've kept you isolated. He said, blah, blah, blah. You're free to go. We stopped all your IV, because I was on like 4 IV antibiotics. There's giving me fluids, electrolytes. He says, you may feel funny for a couple of days. We're going to release you with some aspirin you need to take every day. Blah, 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 blah. The nurse will be along in a minute and we'll get you home. But 6 hours later, a nurse came, because he went out and shut the door. 6 hours later, this nurse came in. I said, I'm going home today. She said, you're not. I said, doctor came round this morning. She said, what doctor? She said, no one's allowed in here. She pointed the notes on the door, says, do not enter under any circumstances. And again, she said, no, there's no doctor. She said, the doctor hadn't done his rounds today. I think it might have been a Sunday. The doctor hadn't done his rounds today. I said, yeah, he came round this morning. She said, I've just got a note to say, take your drips down. So she came in, took my drips, took all the sample, took the poo thing out. My clothes were under the bed, so she let me sit up. And then I got dressed, and then she came over and opened the doors, unlocked or banged on the window, then unlocked the door. And she said, here's your medicine and here's your discharge notes. I said, well, what was wrong with me? She said, you had migraine for 3 days. And on the sheet, it didn't say I was in quarantine. I had migraine for 3 days. So for 3 days, I needed 4 or 5 types of antibiotics, electrolytes, aspirin, blah, 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 and all this pain head medication because I had migraine. And then when I asked for my notes and a copy of the CCTV, they said that the government or some body in for the hospital wouldn't release the CCTV, even under Freedom of Information Act. So they do have the CCTV of all that. So that is evidence.
So they knew everything, didn't they?
They knew. My mum was there. My partner was there. The doctor on the duty on A&E was there. It was on CCTV. And bugger me, I was on the Russ Kellett show about 2 years later. So Russ is a good friend of mine. He did the ET Rider. And he was interviewing me. And he said, Tina, this happened to me. I said, well, this happened to me. And I told him, he said, I went into hospital. Exactly the same thing happened to me, Tina. I said, no. He said, they took me in, rushed me into quarantine, locked me in a room for 3 days, come out and they told me I had migraine. So it goes to show you. So then the reason I've become what you call an outspoken activist, and that's about abduction, is because there is no recourse for abductees. So let's get this straight. There's no recourse. You can't tell anyone. You can't physically go and tell them a government body. You can't get medical help. They won't give you it because they won't believe what's happened to you.
Yeah.
They're not stopping your pain and suffering. My dog was 10 on the day he died. I went to the doctor to give him a blood test. And it said he died. His blood cells show that he had high levels of radiation. So recent reports, so the people were waiting for disclosure. Disclosures happen. When the US government turned and said, yes, UFOs are real. They know that. That happened years ago, 6 years ago. So people say, I want to believe it. And again, believe is an act of faith. I know, and that's the difference. So I said, but it's now gone to like, why don't abductees get listened to? Like Professor Gary Nolan, I'm trying to contact him at the moment. He said, abductees are reports, and many of them that show similarities, is preliminary data. That is data. He said, if you went to a court of law and someone was arrested and said, she did that as an eyewitness without a written testimony, I saw that person go into the bank and rob it. That person, he said, that is empirical evidence. That is testimonial proof. Written proof with an eyewitness statement is empirical proof. So if it's empirical proof for court, it's empirical proof for the CIA to build cases and to test humans. Why isn't it empirical proof for abductees?
Exactly.
So, and the damage. So the UN, so just imagine I was a child, or imagine me with a uniform on. I was a UN soldier, and I go to the American camp where I'm based and say, we got invaded last night. If they say what? I said, well, an unknown force entered our airspace without permission, illegally land. Soldiers came out of it, took me, committed offences against me, against my will, broke into my home and took me, strapped me down on the bed and ripped bits of tissue out from inside me. I said, that's an act of terrorism. That is torture under the Hague Convention. I've been tortured. Now, they would be out in every country holding people responsibility, getting CCTV image, arresting people, invading that country, slapping fines and embargoes on them, giving me criminal injury payments, giving me emergency medical treatment and pain relief. Why is that not happening? And it's shown that Professor Gary Nolan, the CIA approached him, and he was given a test matter subject to test. It was biological human testing and technology. He didn't say if it was human or not. And he said it's an aircraft test pilot for America. And the test craft pilot showed just from being near this thing, he wasn't on it, it was near his ship, it went under his ship, he had some type of radiation poisoning, albeit mild. However, they found empirical medical proof. They tested the ground crew. The ground crew showed significant brain injuries from being underneath their ship. Now, bearing in mind, they all wear protective health shielding helmets. Now, just from this UFO being in close to metal material, being flown under a fighter jet, the ground crew have all suffered brain injuries from being close to that source, closer than the pilot. So being close to UFOs is a medical, biological fact that you are damaged. Again, they're actually paying disability payments to some of the Rendlesham Forest soldiers. They proved their case from a declassified report to say that they were medically injured from radiation from being near a ship. Now, if I've been on a ship, have chemical injuries, I've had burns and teeth and bones and hair, I've had radiation poisoning, where's my compensation? Who is protecting me and who is stopping it? So that's why I said abductees have so many health problems, especially, and the older you get, the worse they get. They don't get better. And that's why I'm all about that at the moment. Yeah, I don't care what people think of me. There's my story. It's just about my account. No one else's opinion. It's got my David Hodrin's his account as my investigator in there, and I can only tell you in there what has happened to me. But I can tell you a lot more. I've been on shows, lectures, TVs. I met so many people in the world of ufology. It's unbelievable.
I know. Well, thank you anyway for coming on the show. Where can everybody get your book?
So my book is called The Bonded, The Truth About Alien Abduction. So the beauty of my book is you can get it free. So if you go onto Amazon Kindle Unlimited, you can get it for free. Don't even know you pay for it. You can read it for free on Amazon Unlimited on Kindle. If you just have Kindle, you can buy the book. I think it's between £4 and £6. Unfortunately, my book now is just £10. It's less than a packet of cigarettes. It's called The Bonded, The Truth About Abduction.
Really?
It's this big because I have photographs to go in there. And when I emailed them to Amazon, they and their IT department were unable to put them in the book to publish. For some reason, an IT department, because I couldn't do it, they could, and Amazon couldn't even do it. So it was just published this big without photographs in. But I'm working on another one. So it's called The Bonded, The Truth About Abduction. So, but Amazon has said to me, I need to put my book up by £3. Otherwise, I'm not earning enough on the book and they've stopped withdrawing it. So I've got to put it up. But you can see me as well this year. So I'm going to be on the Saturday, the 13th of September. I'm going to be at a UFO conference at Cottingham for Limits Magazine.
Chris Evers.
Yeah, Chris Evers. Market Green in Hull. And that was I think Ash Ellis, Spyro, Marlis is on there, is it? Graham Rendell and Steve Moore are going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I've also been on, Jamie Church has given a shout out to me before, as is Mary Rodwell. Again, I've been on so many, but if you can, I've been on Basis TV. You can see loads of episodes about my hybrids on there, where Miles Johnson's interviewed me and he's put that out there. I've got paper reviews with me and Lyndon Walton Howe. She's given me a right grilling.
So if anybody wants to get in touch with you,
so if anyone wants to get in touch with me, it's TA Bird. You can. So there's my email there. It's t.a.bird@hotmail.com. So t.a.bird@hotmail.com. I'm TA Bird on Facebook. I'm Tina Bird, but my official page has my logo on it. TA Bird, international author. I'm a global author, actually.
Yeah, I've got one of yours.
Yeah. Glad for you to have me on the show. And sorry I've talked all your ears off. If there's anything I'd like to know, but
it doesn't matter, Tina.
Yeah, it's been great.
People enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
I hope to see you guys. Come and see me. And Hull, I won't be far from you. I've got to drive up from Southampton, and you guys can hear my talk.
Not far.
Yeah, and it's based on
I can
scientific approach.
I can even get a train there. It's about, I don't know, 30 minutes by train.
Yeah, I think it's about 4.5 hour drive for me. 5 hour drive.
Oh my God, yeah, it will be.
So I'll be coming up, but it'll be a scientific approach about the impact and factors, about what's happened to me. My photographic evidence will be there and all things like that. So I'll see all you guys there. Thanks for being on the show, and it's been great. Thank you all, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.